And yeah, a lot of people we hear or perhaps even talk about this concept of nervous system dysregulation, but at the same time, many of us don't actually understand what that means or what that feels like, looks like. So, could you give us a little bit more information about how you would explain what nervous system dysregulation means and what are some signs that people might be missing?
Yeah, that's like a perfect transition with the talking about that last patient too. So your brain and nervous system don't know the difference between being chased by a lion or you're just stressed at work, you're in traffic. So any stressor, your brain and body do the same exact thing it needs to do to outrun a lion. So I always like to come back to that because when we give it that extreme, it kind of makes more sense. So your body prioritizes things like certain health processes for when you're not being run or when you're not running from the lion. So like filtering your spleen is something that your body does in rest, in true rest. So your spleen filters red and white blood cells, and if they are not filtered regularly, this is what causes autoimmune diseases. So and right like is filtering my spleen that important if there's a lion running running after me? Probably not. So imagine that and all the stressors of today's world. Um our nervous systems were never meant to handle this much stress. I actually removed my smartwatch because it's just the constant notification of something. Really, it's the constant input that we're having to filter through. So an efficient, a regulated nervous system is able to very efficiently wax and wane between fight and flight or rest and digest. So like playing sports is a good example. You kind of have to like, right, you do have to rest at times, but then you have to be ready to mobilize, like I'm thinking of like a soccer player or something. So if your nervous system is easily able to switch between the two modes, like you're essentially what I call like resilient in life. So some signs I think that people maybe overlook. So any sign of gut dysfunction like including diarrhea, constipation. I say that because if you asked me if I had gut issues, I'd always say no. But I had my gallbladder removed while I was in PT school, and just the formation of a gallstone basically says your nervous system is not functioning properly. So cardiovascular issues. Everyone looks at the heart and lungs, but the vagus nerve has a hand in how it's beating, the rate of your breathing. So that's often overlooked. Fainting. I saw this a lot working with my patient population. A lot of times, people will have this fainting spell and they do the whole cardiac workup, like the stress test and the EKG and all that stuff, and it's always inconclusive. So, not a lot of clinicians know. I'm hearing more and more people talk about it now, but it's essentially the vagus nerve couldn't handle whatever stress was happening at that time. So, I always think of like an animal that's being attacked. Some of them will literally play dead so that they can survive. So essentially, fainting for us is like our playing dead. So your body was literally like, this is too much to handle. Let's just shut everything down. And so like difficulty breathing is a big one as well. Cause I feel like people are like, I breathe okay, but like sometimes taking a deep breath, like I always hated breath work because it was so difficult for me to take. Like I was like, it's not relaxing. Um, because physically my body couldn't do it. Emotions and behavior, that's kind of what made the vagus nerve like kind of more in mainstream, I guess you would say. So like anyone who's easily triggered, which, I feel like we're seeing more just in today's society. I was reading something that's exactly why our nervous systems are so dysregulated that one comment on Facebook is enough for us to sense it as an attack. So interestingly enough, like it can also help decrease triggers.